Yeah, I think at the moment, Lucy, I'm pinned and the group are pinned, but it'd be lovely for me to see the group if that was okay, because I don't know if you can do that a little bit bigger, because I can see myself and the group.
That's your setting. Yeah.
Is that me? Is that me?
Well, it might be the way I've got it. No,
No, that's just what we do.
now we've lost you. That's no good. That was
What
me.
parameters is what you choose on your settings, Cara.
Okay. Let me just see if I can do that then.
Yeah, that's true.
Ah, that's better. I can see you a bit better now. That's wonderful. Thanks, Jacko. Okay.
Okay, let's see if I can just do that this oh, that's do you know it's because I'm bigger this end. Yeah. Do I do that at the bottom through yeah, participants? Yeah. Oh.
Click on participants rather than the little arrow.
Oh yeah, there we go. Thank you. There we go. Thank you. Yeah, brilliant. Now we've got you filling our screen, no pressure.
So actually I've got another question, and I'm wondering, because I've got a couple of journaling prompts, whether you've all got your little books and pens with you. I'm just having a look around. I can definitely see a few. Thank you, Karen. I can see yours. It'd be lovely to just give you some space just to record and just to have a bit of reflection. Mahina, maybe you can just reflect in your mind if you haven't got a book.
Yes, of course. Thanks. I'm trying to take it out of your. I'm not doing that in school, like maybe I'm a couple of days out, you know, that's quite I'm a kid at heart, it's taking me back. Thank you. Okay, great. Perfect. No, really. That's a bit of echo.
Okay, everyone's got something to write with. Wonderful. So I have a question, just taking from that, we know the Brits, in terms of our international studies, are not necessarily great at being kind or compassionate to ourselves. We don't rank very highly on that in terms of those international scores. So my question really is then to bring that a little bit more personally to you. What gets in the way of you being kind to yourself? What maybe stops you or prevents you from being just kinder to yourself? Maybe just a little space to reflect on that. And I think it's important to say, I'm not necessarily going to ask you to share this. So just as you're completing that, yeah, it's really about being as honest as you can with yourself. Sometimes, you know, you're not necessarily sharing it with everybody. You can really be honest in terms of that answer. I'll just give you another minute or so just to complete what you've written. Okay, I'm just trying to read the room and see if you need a little bit more time or you're completed, but I think hopefully you might want to continue that reflection beyond our session. But just to give you a little bit of space to think about what might get in the way of that kindness. And then I'm just going to tell you a little bit about the benefits of self-kindness. And I think what I would share about being kind or compassionate to yourself is a little bit like a muscle. It's a little bit around creating the muscle of self-kindness. The more that we do it, the more actually we develop that particular muscle and the more confident we become about it. So I'm just going to share my screen. And so what's really interesting about becoming kinder to ourselves is it's very much about becoming our own ally or our own friend. And interestingly, when we start to approach the topic of self-compassion and self-kindness and self-care, we can sometimes, it actually can sometimes bring up, actually I'm going to stop the screen share while I just share this. It can sometimes bring up a kind of awareness of a kind of inner critic or a voice that isn't particularly kind. That's actually incredibly common. So I think it's really important to say that from the start and during our session this morning, that we can sometimes then spot there's a voice that maybe is quite tough, quite harsh. And as we tune in, that can be sometimes surprising to notice. It's incredibly normal and it's incredibly common. I think it's very rarely that I've met somebody who doesn't have that inner voice, which can be a bit harsh. And for each one of us, each one of you in the room and me, we're at different points in terms of how that voice manifests, how harsh the tone is or how supportive the tone is. But very much the work of self-compassion and self-care is about tuning in to start to become more of an ally, more of a friend, more of a support to ourselves, and particularly in the work that I know you've been doing over the last few days around supporting your health and your well-being. So it's reframing maybe the unconscious or habitual ways that we might talk, that inner dialogue, that inner voice might behave, and starting to become a little bit more aware. Now, to do that, we need to be obviously aware. We need to be a bit more mindful. We need to have notice what that voice is like, because often it's an unconscious pattern. And referring back to what Lucy was saying at the start when she was recapping what you've done, sometimes that voice is very much a head voice. I would say it's very much a space that operates in our head. It can be a looping, habitual voice that we kind of notice is very much in this space. But what we'll naturally notice, and I know you've been doing this in the last few days, is as we become more embodied, as we drop more of our awareness into our body, that naturally can help us to tune a little bit more into that kinder, more compassionate sense of self. So a lot of the work that we'll be doing in this morning is actually maybe becoming a little bit dropping out of our head, dropping more into the heart space and more into our gut and more into our body. So if I pop my slide back up. and just share a little bit around this idea. So as we become more of an ally, as we become more of a friend, the power of self-compassion is it actually creates a sense of naturally of safety in the body. So rather than kind of an inner battle or inner tension, we actually get this sense of security and safety. It becomes a greater sense of harmony, a greater sense that we're in alignment, that our heart, head and gut are in alignment. And also enable us to tune in and listen to what's really going on in our body. So when we drop out of our head, we actually become more sensitive to what's happening in our body. It also can be, and this is really powerful on the last day of your gorgeous retreat that you've been having, can actually support us to actually commit to the positive changes we're seeking to make. And Karen, I really heard you talk about you feeling inspired. There's things you want to take back home. And I know many of you may be feeling like, wow, what a full retreat that you've had. How do I actually continue these wonderful changes when I'm no longer in this beautiful supportive space in Findhorn, this lovely community? How do I continue it when I go beyond the retreat, when I'm at home? And I also want to just talk to, there's actually biological evidence and research showing that when we're in a space of being more compassionate and kinder to ourselves, it has an anti-inflammatory effect in the body. Now this can feel kind of almost quite kind of curious. How can compassion have an anti-inflammatory effect in the body? But there's actually the whole biological aspect of when we are in our fight, flight or freeze mode, and I know you'll have done some work with Catherine around the gut-brain axis. When we're in that sense of urgency or activity, we are in a state where our whole of our biology is very active. We're in a state where our heart rate's increasing, our blood pressure's increasing, and we are in a state of urgency, and all of that biology is sending us to, it can create a low level kind of inflammatory response in our body if we're in that state in many spaces in our lives. When we are in our rest, digest, tend and befriend mode, we're naturally tuning into our biology of reducing inflammation, of reducing that stress response in our body. So it really aligns with a reduction in inflammation in our whole system. And there are actually some really interesting studies that have shown the impact of that physiologically in our body. So I'm kind of feel like what I really want to make sure I do is that we do some movement. So I really want us to drop out of our head. And I think you might have touched on this. So Lisa, you were talking about the depth of the body. So just to kind of really get into our bodies for a few moments, I'd love to invite you to stand up. And just really, I'm going to stand up with you. So I'm just going to move my screen so I can stand up with you. Okay, so just if you have some space, we're going to be a little bit moving out. We're going to be just going into the dimensions of our soma, the dimensions of our body. So what I would love you to do is to find a space. Sorry, I'm just going to tilt that so you can see my head. I'd love you to find a space where you have your feet planted really beautifully, really firmly on the ground, about shoulders width apart. And just find that sense of just being really in your body. It's lovely to have your spine straight, to connect to that ground of your feet. And then what I'm going to invite you to do is just to put your hands up, to raise your hands up and feel the length of your body. So just really connecting to your toes, your feet, the soles of your feet, and then reaching up and connecting up the sense of sky. You can imagine the sky just above the house, above the roof of the house, that beautiful blue sky that's around you. But really noticing the length of your body, breathing into that length. Really feeling that sense of being in your body, and then dropping the hands. We're now going to do something slightly different. We're going to move into the width of the body. So you might want to take your feet stance a little bit wider, and then moving so that your arms find the width. And you might even want to just move side to side, beautiful, into that width. Again, breathing into your body wherever the breath takes you, feeling your feet on the ground, but noticing this lovely width of the body. And you might feel a little intuitive movement that you might need to stretch, how your back, if you've been maybe sitting, a bit this morning, the hips, just finding that beautiful, and also noticing the center of your body here, just noticing this center. Lovely. Breathing again, just not forgetting your breath. Lovely. And then what we're going to do is I'm just going to stand to my side. I'm going to show you the depth of the body. So this is really getting into this dimension of the depth of the body. And to feel that fully, we're going to put a hand behind us and a hand in front of us. It's kind of almost like a bit of a warrior pose, but we're going to notice the depth of our body. Really noticing what's going on between our spine and our belly in particular, but the front of the body, the back of the body, which we don't often think about, and just finding that lovely stretch, breathing into that, exhaling out of that. And maybe just again finding a little bit of forward or backward movement, just really noticing where is your center of gravity? Where is the ground of your movement? Not forgetting your feet, not forgetting your height while you're doing this. Breathing into that depth of your body. And I also just want to, because I know our big focus is our gut, is just thinking about all the organs in that center of your body that are working away, just really thinking about them. You might even want to hold the front and back of your body. It's not something we often do, but just noticing what's going on in that midsection in particular, and breathing into that. Beautiful, beautiful. So what we're just doing, what I'm inviting you to do as we do this, is to come out of our head and just notice the dimensions of your body, the dimensions of your soma. And we have within our body millions of years of evolutionary history. All of our cells, all of them have got wisdom and connection, just connecting into that. So as we come out of our head, maybe noticing the heart area, noticing the gut area. We talk about head, heart, and hara. And the hara is our gut center. It's the gravitational center of our body. And just noticing that. And I'm going to just invite a little bit of just gratitude to our body, gratitude to our ability to stand here, to move, to connect to our body. Beautiful. And I'm even going to invite you to put a little heart around that belly area. And I think you've all had your breakfast. So maybe just an invitation to send a lovely little bit of love into the gut, which is quietly, or maybe noisily, digesting your breakfast. But also, I'd love you maybe just to close your eyes and take a breath, and just to consider the trillions of tiny little beings, ancient beings actually, the bacteria that's in your gut, which is now helping you to digest and break down your food, working away quietly, synthesizing lots of key chemicals and neurotransmitters, digesting away. Just imagine them for a moment in the depths, the deep dark depths of your beautiful inner ecosystem that is your gut. And again, send them a little bit of love, a little bit of gratitude. Thank you. Wow. Have you ever really considered them? Maybe you have. Maybe you've been considering them quite a lot the last few days. And thanking them. Okay, and I'm going to invite you just to take a final breath in, to breathe into them again, but this time to smile to them. Smile to your belly, smile to your breath. And thank those gorgeous gut bugs for all the work they're doing for you. And then when you're ready, coming back, hopefully feeling a little bit more embodied, a little bit more connected. And take a seat with me. I needed to do that. I hope that you also needed to do that, but it's just lovely just to get into our body, connect in with all the magic that's happening inside of us in our magical microbiome. And also to start to just practice what it might be like to embody some self-care in our movement and in our connection and attention to our gut. So again, I'm going to share my screen. Sorry, I'm having a little, for some reason it's not showing.
Fine, it's very smooth this end, Cara, so just take
Thank you. Here we go. So I'm going to show you, this is getting a little bit technical, just coming back in, but I actually wanted to show you this. Oh, what's happening to my screen?
It's good descent.
Thank you. Perfect. Lovely. So I've actually want to just connect in a little bit with what we've just done, and I hope this will have some lovely synergy with the work. I'm sure it will have some lovely synergy with the work that you've done with Lucy, Catherine and Jacko. So it's a little bit technical, but I just thought I'd share because it's lovely to contextualize what we're doing when we're compassionate. There's an amazing guy called Paul Gilbert who runs the Centre for Mindful Self-Compassion here in the UK. It's based at Derby Uni, and he's done huge amounts of research around compassion. And he actually links it to the whole of our autonomic nervous system and he suggests that all of us are operating between 3 different systems in our lives. We're moving between these different systems, and we'll definitely spot some of them around fight or flight and rest and digest. So he talks about, we have a drive system, and this can be really powerful and really helpful. Our drive system is around achieving our goals, consuming, accomplishing tasks. And he relates this to our dopamine reward system, it's a key hormone. And our drive system keeps us motivated, driven, excited, vital. It's very energetic. But we also have our soothing system, and our soothing system has a really important role in self-regulating around slowing down, soothing, rest and digest, safeness, kindness and care. And the key hormone related to this is oxytocin. And the feelings we have when we're in that, and I'm sure you're feeling this on this beautiful Friday morning up in Findhorn as a lovely community where you've got to know each other and there's a sense of safety and connection, a contentment, connection, and that deep need that we all have as human beings to have psychological safety. It's hugely important to our well-being. But we also have a threat system, and I'm sure you'll have touched on this with our fight and flight response. And the function of this ancient system, its evolutionary function, was very much around managing threat, protection, survival, and seeking safety. And the dominant hormone here is cortisol. And when we're in this system, we have a sense of anxiety, anger, disgust, shame, sadness. These feelings and emotions are very common in this space. And this is where we're often in our fight or flight mode. And so we have this sense that we're moving between, Paul suggests that we're moving between these systems all the time. And they have their roles, but it's how we learn to navigate these in supportive ways. And as you can imagine, our soothing system is very much linked to that idea of creating self-kindness, self-care, and self-compassion for ourselves. And it's particularly helpful if our fight or flight response is really very active in us, and we all have different triggers for that. And it can also be helpful even if we have our drive system and we're really motivated and maybe achieving wonderful things or achieving goals. But sometimes if that's unbalanced, we might again need to have that ability to regulate and to move into our soothing system. So I feel like it's quite a lovely model that might just contextualize what we're doing here as we talk about self-care and self-compassion. So I also want to just introduce, and I did this in my little video share with you. So when we talk about self-compassion, actually I'll just stop screen sharing because I'll just introduce a little bit more about that before talking about the yin and yang self-compassion. I think sometimes we feel when we're kind to ourselves, when we're soothing ourselves, it just means we're going to end up lying on the sofa, binge watching Netflix, eating takeout pizza. We're going to, like, when I'm kind to myself, that's what will happen. It's just going to all fall apart. You know, we're not going to achieve anything. And there's a kind of almost a myth around that. If I'm too kind, if I'm too caring for myself, that's what's going to happen. And actually, I think that's a kind of a misunderstanding about what real kindness looks like, what real self-compassion would feel or look like. Because actually, self-compassion, the deeper part of it, is actually supporting us to move in the direction of positive change or the change you want to make. And that's why self-compassion is such a lovely aspect of a retreat setting where you're deepening your self-awareness. I'm sure that you're starting to take some lovely practices and lovely elements of things, maybe food, fermenting, baking, breathing, cold water. There's going to be lots of things that you'll have been covering in the last few days that you might want to take into your everyday life, take in beyond, into life beyond this retreat. So my invitation, and I hope the timing of this is really helpful on this Friday morning as you're moving into the latter part of the retreat, is to think about what's going to support you to do that. What's going to support you to actually bring those changes into your life? And I guess I have a question. Is it about being really tough on yourself and being like, these are all my goals, this is what I'm going to do? Meditation every morning, cold shower every day, and whatever it might be, is that going to be helpful? It might have a role. Or is there another approach which might be around, what's your deeper why? What's the deeper self-care or support that you might need to make these changes? So I've got a couple of journaling questions, maybe just to let this land for you. So again, if you've got your paper and pen. And just as we do this, actually, just maybe before you pick up your paper and pen, maybe just put them down just for a moment. I just would like you just to breathe into your heart and your belly, just to take a moment of connecting in, tuning into yourself. We talked about what might prevent you from being kind, and now we're just going to be thinking a little bit around what you might really need. So just taking a breath, dropping a little bit out of the head into that lower part of your body, your heart, your gut, and just kind of connecting. And then picking up your pen and paper, I have a question. What do I need? What do I really need? And allowing the answer just to arise really naturally within you. And if it's not flowing, just again, tune into the heart, tune into the gut, and really allow it to arise. It might be a word, a phrase, might be an image. Okay, and just another minute to draw those strands together with that thinking space. What do I truly need? And allow you to finish off your sentence. And maybe leave a bit of space below the page if you feel you want to come back to that at some point over the next few days and add to that. Because maybe it's a question where you haven't really asked yourself before. And I have another question. And this is about the inner voice and the inner self-talk. What do I need to hear? What do I need to hear? And I'm going to expand on that a little bit. What are the words that I long to hear? So if you could have words whispered in your ear every day, what are the words that you would love to hear that would make you say, thank you? That's exactly what I needed to hear. Thank you. And then just another moment or two, just allow you to really capture that. And you might even want to use your name at the start as you say that. You might want to use your name. Okay, I'm going to let you finish off your sentence and wherever you've said. And again, this is just for you. You don't need to share. If you feel like sharing with others, then of course you can. But this is very much for you. It's very much an inward moment. So allowing you just a bit of time to finish. I know some of you are still writing, and I'm just going to go back. So sometimes when we ask that question, it can be really powerful to actually understand what it is we're longing to hear. And it can be interesting to notice, because when we tune in and hear what we're longing to hear, it helps us start to tune into that more caring inner voice, the words or phrases that will support us, strengthen us, support us maybe to make the changes we really want to make. And it's lovely to hear, because it can be quite unique to us, those particular words that have real touch our heart, touch our being. And it might even be, if I use Lucy because she's right at the front and I know her, but maybe if Lucy's like, Lucy, you're doing really well. you're doing really well, it might be just hearing that, actually supporting that inner voice, because we so often focus on what's lacking or what we're missing or what we're not doing. So it can be really powerful just to say, oh, thank you, wonderful, thank you for what you're doing, thank you for organising this wonderful retreat, Lucy, for example. So just using your own voice, and imagine what it's like just to say that to yourself. Have you ever done that before? Maybe you have. Maybe you're at a different, maybe you have, but maybe it's new. Maybe this feels like a new space. So I'm going to go back and just talk a little bit, just allowing you to finish, and come back and just maybe talk a little bit more about the yin and yang of self-compassion, because I really love this. I'm sure you've all seen the yin and yang loop, the circle, which has the black and the white, but it has a dot of each, and it's all about balance. And so self-compassion is about self-kindness, and it is about self-soothing, and it's a beautiful, and I think most of us actually have a real longing and a need for that. We live in a very busy, competitive, sometimes overwhelming world, and actually to actually have the yin of self-compassion, the soothing and self-care, is often like a sense of, when I work with people, it's often almost like the glass is quite empty and we almost need to fill it up before we even start to look at the yang of self-compassion, but they're very interlinked. So soothing, the yin aspect is a feminine aspect. So it's a softer, it's a soothing, it's a softening to feelings, it's the allowing, the space to allow, however we're feeling, even if we're having a crappy day or a crappy morning or whatever's coming up, it's allowing. It's soothing, softening, and validating and accepting how we feel. And this can sometimes be quite a new space for us, just to allow, just to kind of become that. How would we treat a friend? How would we treat a loved one who is feeling, if we're feeling down or we're having a difficult day? How would we treat a loved one? How would we speak to them? What language might we use towards them? How might we just allow them to feel how they're feeling? And it's incredibly common that we're a lot tougher on ourselves. The statistics say that research shows that we're 78% 78% more likely to be kind to others than we are to be towards ourselves. So 2/3 of us are nearly 80% of us are tougher with ourselves than we are with others. So what might you say to a dear one or a friend to encourage them? So that's the yin of self-compassion. And then the yang of self-compassion is, this is more of the masculine aspect. So this is really about, because self-compassion feel like it's all very gentle and it's very soft, and I love all that stuff, but I also love the yang of self-compassion. So this is about, how do we protect ourselves? How do we honor our boundaries? How do we even say no sometimes? I don't know what came in your question about what stops you being kind, but sometimes it's about others' needs coming before our own needs. Sometimes it's about the demands on our life, whether it's our work or our family or relationships. So how do we set healthy boundaries and protect them and honor them? How do we provide for ourselves? How do we ensure we have what we need? Even if it's something as practical as, how do we make sure we go and do a shop that's going to give us all those beautiful foods that you've been eating, that allows you to really nurture and nourish yourself and your gut and those precious bacteria who are working away? How do you provide for yourself? And how do you motivate yourself? How do you sometimes see the bigger picture and remember remember that why are you making those changes, even if you're having a difficult day, or even if you go, oh, actually I really wanted to do my breath work every morning and I've forgotten it for the last 2 days because I've been so busy and overwhelmed. How do I come back to it? How do I motivate myself to go, it's okay, let's bring the yin in, it's okay, I haven't done it for a couple of days. The yang comes in and goes, okay, I'm going to begin again. I'm going to remember why I'm doing it. And something that I am very passionate about as well is, how do we walk our commitments? So again, on this last day of your retreat, I imagine you're going to be doing a lot of work later with Lucy, Catherine and Jacko about your intentions and what you're going to be taking away, maybe even some commitments. And compassion can really, the yang of compassion can be about where you get that strength of, I'm committed, I'm going to follow through. I'm going to honor the things that I've recognized and understood on this retreat, and I'm going to continue them. So I love this dance between the yin and the yang, the soothing and softening, and the power of motivating and moving forward. I often feel, for me, in my own life and the work that I do, that I see compassion as a bridge between what I know in my head, maybe what I've understood intellectually, and compassion is a bridge to what I do. So it's heart and hands, what I actually do in the world. When I have compassion, it's like the stuff that I just can be up here, it can be a concept, this is what I know is good. It supports me to actually actualize that and make it happen. I think it's a very powerful bridge. So that's my offering, maybe as a bit of a metaphor about the power of compassion, the power of being motivated to care for ourselves and to sustain it, even when we have the push and pull and the busy and the overwhelm and all the other things that are happening in our lives. So I'm mindful of time, Lucy, and there's a particular practice that I really want us to do, but I just want to maybe have a little check-in about, I know I'm going into lunch, aren't I? I'm moving us into lunch. Is there a particular time for lunch with you all?
We're very relaxed this end, I think. It's safe to say everyone is absorbing this, so no hurry at all.
Okay.
Hurry is the wrong word to even use, but we will vaguely think about sliding into lunch at about 12:30.
Wonderful, and hopefully we'll be in deep rest and digest mode at that time, because we're going to be doing a lovely practice together. So we're going to be moving into hopefully a really practical takeaway practice. Oh, hi, hello, Jacko.
Can I share something that is, when you were talking about power then, before you said it, I was already thinking about how powerful everything is, in that everything I'm writing down on this piece of paper, which for everyone else, they're writing their own things down. All of those things I'm writing down are things that I already know. And there was some similarities with when we teach the breathing. It's like, I believe people, look, we already know, the body knows how to do it, but you might need some cues. So you asked some very good questions that then allowed me to tell myself something that I already knew. And there's been a theme of that running through all of the days and all three of us that have been delivering sessions. And I think that it's so powerful, and I hope other people are feeling it. It's so powerful and so empowering to think that everything that I think I need, I actually already know. Okay, I might need some guidance in getting it out, but I can stop searching everywhere else to find the thing that I'm looking for. I actually already know. Does that make sense?
Right, isn't it?
That's lovely.
That's so thank you for articulating that so beautifully, Jacko. Actually, I feel that it's really moving and it's so true. And it's interesting. I was doing a talk yesterday, and what's coming up for me, just as I've heard you say that, is we often look to an expert to fix us or to be the solution. And there is a role of expertise and guidance from people, but isn't it so powerful that actually our inner knowing, our inner truth, our intuition, when we tune in, when we connect, when we give ourselves a space to do that, it's such a powerful guide. So thank you so much. I love that. And I love that permission to say my own inner knowing is healing. It's part of the healing. It's a fundamental part of the healing.
I think it's about trusting yourself. Sorry, were you just
Sorry.
like you really knowing, and like what I think for me it's about trusting what, like, and I'm the exact same. Like, I'm writing things down and I'm like, I know this. Like, I know I need to be kinder to myself. I know why I'm not kind to myself, and I think it's about really trusting that you know that you've got everything. It's like the confidence for me, I think, that is the big thing. Even though I know it's true, but it's like really believing that you've got what you need, and that like that's really valid for me. About you don't need someone else to give it to you. Like, it is helpful sometimes to have that bit of coaching or that bit of support, but it's actually no one else is going to give that to you. You can only give that to yourself. And that's really important, I think.
Beautiful, lovely, yeah, really powerful. Jeremy, were you about to say something?
No, I was just coughing.
Oh, right. Sorry. I guess I just want to open up the space because I'm really aware that I've been talking quite a lot. Is anyone else like to share any reflections? You don't necessarily, you can obviously open about something you'd like to share, or just how this is landing in your being, this idea of being kinder, because all of us are arriving at this from a slightly different perspective or a slightly different experience maybe of that idea of kindness.
Well, I'll share something if I'm allowed to.
Please do, Lucy, yeah.
Yeah, you will go first. So that's just picking up on what Lauren was saying when you asked us what's going to support me to make those changes, Cara. Actually, the first thing I wrote down was being with the people that helped me to do it. So although I know it's within me, I've learned for me personally, this is just how it works for me. I'm working freelance as well. And we've talked about this, Cara. The thing that has completely changed everything for me is actually connecting with people who help me to find that in myself, or remind me, or just creates a really supportive environment and reminds me that it's there within me. So you're completely, I totally know what you're meaning, but I couldn't do it. I need support of others around me to, as a reminder and as constant coaching, I suppose. It's
You see, not to interrupt, but to add on that, when we first came, you talked about nourishing, and you talked about us nourishing our stomachs, nourishing ourselves, and also not being nourished by people around us. That isn't it?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
nice. Yeah,
It's true.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with what you're saying, because I am much better at it when I'm surrounded by people who I think for me it's about surrounding myself with not physical things, but surrounding myself with that energy that gives me the best of myself. And I think that then allows you to share the best of yourself with other people.
And that's why you came here, isn't it?
Yeah, it is for me. Yeah, definitely. Because I know that like this environment brings out the best in me. So I think it's knowing that you can allow yourself to come and do these things, and that is good. It's like believing that you deserve it. I think
it's
part of it to me.
valuing myself.
Yeah, it's the value of
self-compassion.
Yeah. So it's not about like, oh well, I can do it all on my own. It's about I can allow myself to do these things that make me feel more like the best version of myself.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Lauren. Thank you, Karen. Anyone else want to just share how it's landing? Is this feel a little bit new or alien, or does it feel familiar? What's it like to start to think about being kinder and more compassionate?
For me, it's like a lovely reminder. You're a great mirror, Cara, for myself, and just gems landing, coming from another source. Is lovely, and to be surrounded by other people also learning is a great environment for making it happen, to activate the motivation. I live in this lovely community, the village, and the foundation as a whole. So there's a sense of one can get complacent. People can get complacent up here because there's so many workshops all the time on similar things, or so-called, and lots of people coming up to share their gems. But I think right now it's so much about honouring what I already have inside of me. I've lived here 20 years, and I'm recognizing, yeah, more importantly over the last couple of years, that it's to be still, actually. It's, the simplicity of that is so hard to do, and yet is mind-blowingly important.
Wow, beautiful. Thank you. I've kind of got something about digesting maybe in the stillness, like all of this amazing things that you've been exposed, all those gems of wisdom that you actually hear on the outside but know within, and allowing it to digest in the stillness. Beautiful. Thank you. I don't know if anyone else wants to share. Completely fine if you don't feel like you need to, or whether you'd like to say, how's it landing?
For me, Cara, it's just the word space for me is the thing. Like, I need to allow myself space. Like, you've got so much input that you can easily go about your week. It's gone by in a flash, and then I've not. You're like, what time have I actually taken to, like, say, just revisit this stuff? And there's so much sort of wisdom within. Yes, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that there's not other things to take on all the time. But for me, I always I value the external of what everyone else says, and then you're like, yeah, but there's lots already in. I just need to draw out that would also be helpful for myself and others. So yeah, the stillness also resonated when you said that, and you like almost creating stillness, and for me, I don't know that being still as in like physically still, is what I need for that. I think sometimes like being out on a walk or moving, like dropping into your body, I think like yoga and things like that, and things that are going through my mind at the moment that creates enough mind stillness to have that space to sort of,
yeah, beautiful. Thank you. Stillness is so precious in our busy world, isn't it?
I'm just going to really go against all that. I just need to nip outside for 2 seconds. I don't
Don't worry, Karen, it's fine.
Go for it, Karen. No worries.
Compassion to your daughter, Karen.
So, unless anyone else wants to share, or just checking in, we're okay. We're all okay.
Very okay.
Good, good. So, we're going to be doing a little bit of affectionate breathing now. And I know you've been doing some meditation and lots of breathing with Jacko, but this is going to be really simple. It's going to be focused on, I think I mentioned it in my little intro. It's a practice from the Theravada Buddhist tradition, which is called a metta practice. It's a loving kindness practice. But to do it, we just become a little bit aware of our breath, and then we use a phrase, we repeat a phrase. And what we're doing is tuning in to being more present in our bodies, but also starting to develop a positive inner self-talk. And it's a really lovely, gentle practice. It can be really helpful if you're someone who has digestive distress or discomfort. It can be really good on a difficult day as well. So this is about really one of the soothing compassion practices. And I also just wanted to actually, just before we do it, just pan out a little bit, because I just want to say the core tenets of self-compassion. There's 3 core tenets. And I just thinking about maybe something that Lauren said was just reminding me of this is the core tenet of self-compassion is when we feel isolated or we're alone, we feel like really, we're having a difficult day. Self-compassion connects us to our shared humanity. It connects us to our shared sense of community. And we realize everyone has difficult times, and we're not alone. So there's a lovely element of that in the self-compassion. And another key element of self-compassion is to change the inner negative self-talk into a kinder voice, to discover that kinder inner voice. And what we'll often find when we have a negative self-talk, it can be habitual, it can be kind of a rumination, it can be, and what we do is we just bring more awareness to it. And then as we bring awareness to it, as we bring mindfulness to it, we can start to maybe become a little bit kinder to ourselves. And that's the third part, is just bringing awareness, bringing mindfulness. So moving away, so it's connection, it's that inner positive self-talk, that kind self-talk, and it's that awareness piece. I think those are kind of almost like a triangle of self-compassion. That's its foundations. So coming to do our belly metta bhavana practice. Oh, this is perfect timing for lunch, actually. So we're going to just spend a few minutes together doing it. Just to get your body ready, what I would encourage you to do is have your feet flat on the floor. Maybe just sit a little bit in your seat so you can have a straight back, because it's lovely to have the front of your body feel quite open and spacious as we do this. And just to get really comfortable. So just however you need to be, just to be really compassionately kind, even in how you're sitting, that you just feel in your body connected. And I'm going to invite you to put a hand on your chest and a hand on your belly, just so you feel connected to the heart and the gut centers. And it just also brings the awareness a little bit out of our head. And just going to invite you just to breathe a little bit into that lower hand, just to take the breath maybe deeper into the lungs. And just noticing. And I'm just gonna, like, however you feel you need to breathe. I'm not going to direct it too much, but just encouraging the breath a bit lower in the body. And just noticing it, maybe noticing the temperature of the breath that comes in and out. So just that you arrive, and you might naturally just lower your gaze or close your eyes, and I'm going to hold the space for us. So however you need to do this. And now we're just going to tune in to a really beautiful phrase, the metta phrase of kindness. And you can say this quietly as I repeat the phrase, just repeat it quietly within. May my belly be well. May my belly be at peace. May my belly be well. May my belly be at peace. And just repeating that quietly. And there might be another word that comes up to you, or another phrase that comes up to you, just repeating that quietly to yourself. May my belly be well. May my belly be happy. May my belly be whole. May my belly be well. May my belly be happy. May my belly be whole. And breathing, just continuing to breathe very naturally, and really noticing that lower hand. May my belly be well. May my belly be happy. May my belly be at peace. Now I'm going to invite you just to connect with whatever part of your digestive system you feel you need to connect to. Your stomach, your colon, your ileum. Just maybe thinking about what you know about this beautiful digestive tract. Maybe even those tiny little bugs, those beautiful bacteria in your biome that you've been learning about. And there might even be an image that pops up in your mind, and that's lovely. If you're visual, you might even have an image or a sense of that space within. And just send love, send kindness to whatever has arisen in your mind. If it's your bacteria, may my bacteria be well. May my bacteria flourish and be healthy. May they be well. May they be happy. And sometimes when you do this, you might even get a sense of light or a sensation in the body, maybe a sense of well-being. And if that's the case, beautiful. Let that flow, let that arise. And allowing the breath to be natural, however you need it to be. May my biome be well. May my biome flourish. May all of my bacteria be happy. And I'm going to take a lovely final deep breath. And this time I'm going to ask you to smile again. Smile again to your breath, your belly, whatever words or images have emerged for you. And then let that go. And lovely exhale. And then very gently, I'm going to invite you to come back into the room. And then before we speak or do anything else, I'm just going to invite you to pick up your pen and paper. Just if there's something, maybe a phrase or a word or something that has landed with you or connected with you, just maybe jot that down, just while it's fresh in your mind. So just a minute maybe to complete what you need to share, what you need to remind yourself or offer yourself from that very gentle, very loving practice. And I can see some of you feeling a little bit sleepy because that was quite gentle, but you know, you've got your digestive system all ready to have a lovely bit of nice food. But before we do go to lunch, I guess it's just I'd love to do a circle just to hear a little bit about what you might want to share, and you can be. We didn't really contract actually but in the start of this session, but I know we're kind of held in the contracting of the retreat that this is a lovely confidential space. So whatever you feel called to share, you can share as much or as little as you like, but maybe just a sentence or two about what's landed with you in that practice, or maybe a word or phrase, whatever you like.
For me, I would never associate the word power with self-compassion. They, to me, were diametrically opposed. It was quite interesting to see that it could be a powerful thing and not something that's weak, you know, or something that's soft. Weak's not the right phrase, something soft. So I like the fact that we see it as taking power by implementing self-compassion. That's a new concept I hadn't thought about.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Karen. It makes me think about the ocean, which is so soft and fluid, and yet it actually can wear down stone and rock over time. It's really, I think for me, it's a very powerful metaphor of that, the
Yes.
strength in something that can feel quite soft or fluid. Lovely, thank you, Karen. Beatrice, is it okay to come to you next? What would you like to share? A word, a phrase, anything that's landed for you?
I feel a calmness in my gut now. I think, yeah, so appreciate that.
Thank you. Wonderful to hear. Wonderful. Calm is a bit of a theme, and I know I have quite a calming voice. I send people to sleep sometimes, so, but I'm sure it's nice before you eat your, before you eat your food to be in a state of calm. Thank you. Jacko, what would you like to share?
I don't know fully what it means, or if it's necessarily about. I thought there's two questions. What stops you being kind to yourself, and then what do you really need? I wrote a few things on the very first, like as soon as you said what stops you from being kind, I wrote down immediately, you don't deserve it. And then when you said what do you really need, the first thing I wrote down immediately was I wrote nothing. And then I've like wrote other stuff and extrapolated, but it's interesting to like initial reaction with those two things, which I think I probably need to spend some time on picking. But
Thank you, Jacko. Love it. Thank you very much for sharing. Lauren, you're next on my screen. What would you like to share?
Very similar things. That's what I've just pointed out. I've written, I don't wholly believe I deserve it. I think it's that really, it's a really strange thing because you would never say that to someone else, would you? So why do you say it to yourself? And I think it's understanding that for me, and that what you said, actually, I've written that down about that. It's, I think for me, like not being compassionate to yourself is very like that British difficult, like I will not allow myself to feel anything. That's what I'm like. And I think that actually, because we think that strength, don't like I, see that strength, like I don't really cry, and so that's, but it's not really like that. It's actually really strong to allow yourself to feel all of that stuff and to acknowledge what you need and to be open to receive that from whichever source it comes from. Yeah, really important, like some really important stuff for me has come up.
Thank you, Lauren. Thank you so much, Lauren. And I would just say, actually, this is quite deep work, and we've got like a little session here, and I would often teach this over quite a long period of time. So I'm trying to pick out what hopefully would land with you as a group, knowing where you are in this beautiful, safe retreat setting. But actually, it can bring up some deep questions that actually you might want to explore further. So I will think about some resources or some things that I can share with Lucy that we can put into the group as well. Okay, thank you. Catherine, how about you? Is there anything you want to share? A word, a phrase, anything that's maybe particularly landed or come up for you?
For me too, that it just was a realization that when you said it's like what would something along the lines of the kind words that you need to hear, like I felt really uneasy. Like it was really not sitting well with me to say kind words to myself. So yeah, again, it's just opened up something that I need to explore a little bit for myself.
Yeah, and I think it's so important to say it's very natural to be tough on ourselves. It's a very deep cultural pattern, and I think it's certainly worth exploring when we are in a space of change. So yeah, it's a really interesting to look at that cultural and individual way that we where that comes from, that we need to be so tough on ourselves but we're kind to other people. It's really interesting. Thank you for sharing. I'm just making sure I'm announcing it. Mahini, sorry, Mahini.
Tahini.
Mahini, thank you so much. I forgot for a moment. Mahini, thank you.
Yeah, I could say lots, but to sort of distill it down, yeah, what I say to my belly could be really a helpful way to move forward. I'm into this level of the belly and cooking. And I've had my fair share of digestive issues from a very young age. And yes, to to just harness those loving thoughts and words towards my stomach, my small intestine, my gut. Yeah, that's a really helpful reminder. And I just keep having the picture of my niece who's just turned 20 with IBD. And I just so want her to know about your work and how best to go about that. And she's so uninterested in anything alternative. And I so want to reach out to her with what's possible. You know,
That seems like a good idea, just to put your book down in front
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah.
over the course of a couple of days, but you wouldn't have a chance to.
thank you.
Yeah, so it's actually the book that I wish I wrote the book for the person I was when I was 20, who actually would have really needed that book. When I was diagnosed, I actually very much wrote it because I really wanted a holistic perspective. And at the time, so sorry, just before we get to Jeremy, I'll just very briefly segue because it feels like an important share. I was diagnosed with inflammatory bowel disease and hospitalized when I was very young. I was at university and everything happened very quickly. And I basically was told, you're about to have surgery. I was very, very lucky. I responded to intravenous steroids. Right, I had about 24 hours to respond. I responded and they decided not to take my colon out. And actually it was a profound experience of self-compassion. Being that young in hospital was a huge wake-up call. And when I put my book together, I actually sought out research that showed the power of self-compassion in its physiological impact. And since I wrote my book and I was doing a lot of my research around 2020, there's more evidence and more happening in that space. And I think we can sometimes say it's a bit weak or it's a bit woo or it's this. And actually, I think self-compassion has real scientific validity in its impact on our well-being, both physically, emotionally, and mentally. So that's just my share for your niece. And I'm sure there's some things that might be in there that would be helpful for her. Sorry, Jeremy, I went off on a bit of a segue. Is there anything, a word, a phrase that you'd like to share?
Yeah, the couple of things. One, the writing the stuff down, and we kind of know a lot of stuff already. I think that really resonated, and it's not that we don't seek to find out more. It's just that actually we do know the answers to a lot of things, rather than so it's really the better. And you know the questions that you ask, you just got me thinking about quality of the questions that we ask ourselves. Often provide the answers, but it's because we don't ask ourselves good enough questions that we don't provide the answers. So that got me really thinking. And then the other thing that I share, which is a conversation that I had this morning with Jack and Catherine as well, about allowing ourselves to be happy. And that's like just a big reflection actually of these last few days, really, which is most of us are not very good at allowing ourselves to be happy. We stop ourselves from being happy, and it's like, why do we stop ourselves? Goes back to your compassion thing, which is why are we really tough on ourselves? Why can't we allow ourselves to be happy? Jacka said something yesterday which resonated as well, which is he said, I stop myself sometimes when I'm happy. I can't feel guilty that I'm happy. And again, that resonated with me. I do the same thing. I sometimes get to myself and like, oh, this is too good. We can't be this happy. and it's just a really good question to ask yourself: is why do we stop ourselves from being happy?
Thank you. It's a really powerful question to sit with, and what a lovely environment to be in, to allow that space to ask those really deep questions, because what is it that we long for in our lives is generally happiness and contentment, and yet we may be preventing it as well, unconsciously maybe. Thank you, Jeremy. That really, really lovely way to end. I don't actually, I can see behind us, Lucy, just going into like hostess mode. I don't know if there's anything you want to share, Lucy, just to complete just before lunch.
Everything that everyone says really has completely resonated with me too. It's just all connected, and but also a kind of feeling of liberty that I'm getting from this session, because it's sort of like it's okay to have all these feelings and to have self-doubt sometimes and to feel confident others and to come to yourself and yet need time together, and it's quite liberating because it takes away the good, maybe.
Thank you. Thank you. So that's us completing, and I know lunch is going on in the background. Thank you. I feel like you're my guinea pigs for this very new experience of zooming into a retreat. So I hope there was some valuable reflection space there, and I was really seeking to try and hold it from my office here in Birmingham, so many hundreds of miles away, but really try to get that sense of a lovely connection. And I feel that real sense of warmth from the lovely room that you're in and seeing all of you there. So thank you so much for being part of my first session of this kind of model. So wonderful.
Saying something. I'm a massive Zoomophobe. I don't like meetings over Zoom. I'll put that out there. And because I think you lose that connection. You've done a really good job. You really have. I have to say, you're changing my mind on the power of Zoom. If I've got a meeting soon with someone, they say, do you want to speak on the phone or on Zoom? And I'm like, I'll talk to you on the phone. So I can sort of picture it, and I'm used to that. But actually, this has worked. So thank you.
Oh, lovely. Thank you, Karen.
But also, I just wanted to keep you involved because we are going into lunch, and I know you really, really value blessing your food, and for you, it's all part of getting your digestion into more, or even more of that rest and digest mode. So I thought you'd like to know what we're eating, and I'll bring you a doggy bag. So Mahini has made lots of lovely meals for us while we've been here. We've also, over the course of 2 days, been making a sourdough loaf. So we're going to have that for lunch today. And then we've got some local organic cheeses from some of the dairy. Cheese. And we've still got some lovely leftovers. Mahini's made a lovely kale salad, which was really interesting because those of us that eat, not looking at anyone, Jacko, eat quite fast, realise that when you eat something like kale raw in a salad, curly kale, it really slows you down. You just have no choice. You have to slow down. So we've been enjoying that aspect of it. And there's some leftover quinoa with you roasted the peppers and the aubergine. Butternut. And added it in among quinoa and some lovely feta cheese. And so, yeah, we're just going to be sharing that and really thinking of you. And I think you've just put us all into this lovely, just exactly how we all need. It's just what we needed today. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. And my mouth is watering. My salivary glands are working away. I'm like, that description, absolutely delicious. So have a wonderful, wonderful meal. And I guess it would just be, and thank those beautiful gut bugs and that wonderful digestive system that's going to help you to process all of that, as well as the beautiful food that you're going to eat. I'm sure you'll do a little blessing and Hina for having created this gorgeous, delicious lunch as well.
Yeah, thank you. And then I think we're going to hope to get together again on Zoom, Karen.
Yeah.
Maybe in 3 or 4 weeks' time, just maybe over lunch for a quick how are we all doing, and then that would be.
You can be on Zoom on your phone and show our audience. So actually the experience can be.
So thank you, Cara. Have a lovely.
Thank you, Cara.
Yeah.
Lovely to meet you all. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Lovely rest of your retreat. Bye.
Bye. Don't really want to switch you off.
You're there, you can watch us eat.
Get a screenshot of you and just leave you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.